This is Ethan's ticket. You two should switch." When I didn't move, Victoria Morgan shoved me again. "Sincere Clark, I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? Ethan's leg is injured. He can't stand. Give him your business class seat." Only then did I look up, my gaze cold as I stared at them and refused point blank. "This is my ticket. Why on earth should I give it to Ethan Davis?" The phantom pain of being torn apart by the train was still spreading through me. I couldn't help but clench my fists. "This time I will never compromise with you again." Victoria hadn't expected me to refuse her in public. She couldn't stand the loss of face. In front of everyone, she started berating me. "Sincere Clark, Ethan is a patient and his leg is at a critical stage of recovery. You're a grown man. How can you have no compassion? You're perfectly healthy. Why can't you help someone vulnerable?" Ethan, leaning on Victoria's arm, hopped painfully on one foot and looked at me with a pathetic expression. "Big bro, see, I don't want to take your business class seat, but you see the state my leg is in. I really have no other choice, so I have to swallow my pride and ask for your help." He finished with a symbolic, bitter smile, making himself look incredibly wronged. With their coordinated performance, they painted me as a completely heartless bastard. The other passengers couldn't stand by and watch anymore, and they started chiming in. "The man's injured. What's the big deal with giving up your seat? It won't kill you. If he were my friend, I'd give him my seat without a second thought. Look, the poor guy is practically begging you. How can you be so cruel?" I stared coldly at the people making their callous remarks. Of course, people love to be generous at someone else's expense, to solve someone else's crisis. In my past life, it was their words that got to me. Under the barrage of their verbal attacks, I was forced to switch places with Ethan. He sat comfortably in the business class seat I had paid for, scrolling through videos on his phone while I was forced to stand in an empty space in the corridor. I tried to ask Ethan to switch back with me for a bit, midway through the journey, but Victoria shut me down righteously, saying I shouldn't disturb a patient's recovery. Just like that, I stood in the crowded train car for over 40 hours. I was mentally exhausted, my legs aching and weak. When we finally arrived at the station, I staggered off the train, but I lost my footing and bumped into Ethan, who was walking in front of me. He clutched his calf, crying out in pain, and shot me a resentful look. "Sincere Clark, I just sat in your business class seat for a while, and now you're trying to cripple me for life?" I was about to explain that it wasn't like that, but Victoria kicked me away viciously. "You madman, Sincere, get away from Ethan unsteady." I slipped and tumbled straight onto the tracks below, where I was crushed beyond recognition by an oncoming train. The police ruled my death an accident. It had no impact on Victoria and Ethan's lives whatsoever. In fact, because I was dead, Victoria legally inherited my house and savings and started a shameless new life with Ethan. My thoughts snapped back to the present. The phantom agony of being dismembered still echoed through my body. I looked at Victoria, who only had eyes for Ethan, and felt nothing but profound disappointment. We had been married for 3 years. I thought my devotion could move this woman, but over time, all she did was take more and more from me, issuing commands as if it were her birthright. Looking at the face that once captivated me, all I felt now was disgust. I crossed my arms and smirked. I bought the ticket. If I say no, the answer is no. Hearing my refusal, Victoria's anger flared. "Sincere Clark, can you stop being so childish? Ethan is a patient." I responded with a detached, "Oh, he's a patient, so why did he buy a standing room only ticket?" Ethan's face instantly turned beet red, but I wasn't done. He knew his leg was bad, yet he still bought a standing ticket, planning to guilt trip a business class passenger. Anyone who didn't know better would think this was some kind of scam. He doesn't even care about his own body. You want me, a stranger, to care for him? I paused, scanning the crowd. Anyone who didn't know better would think I was his father, and even if he were willing to call me Dad, I'd have to be willing to acknowledge him. Ethan looked flustered and quickly tried to explain. Big Bro C, how can you make such baseless accusations? You're the one who bought me this standing ticket. How can you frame me like this? I told you I was injured when I asked you to buy the ticket, but you deliberately bought me a standing one. What are you playing at? How could a patient like me possibly stand for so long? Are you trying to make my condition worse on purpose? He even swayed a little, looking like he was about to collapse. I hadn't expected him to be so quick-witted, managing to shift the blame back onto me. Victoria, standing beside him, was overcome with concern and let Ethan lean his entire weight on her. Don't move. You'll aggravate the wound. Then she turned on me, full of remorse and self-blame. It's all my fault. I asked Sincere to help you get a ticket, but I never imagined he'd buy you a standing one. I can't believe he's so vicious. The crowd, which had just quieted down, was once again filled with righteous indignation. First, they comforted Ethan. Hey, brother, don't get worked up. Be careful with your injury. Don't you worry, we're here for you. We won't let you be wronged. Then they turned their lectures on me. What is wrong with you? You knew he was a patient and you still bought him a standing ticket? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? You look decent enough, young and educated. How could you do something so despicable? Faced with the crowd's accusations, my heart didn't race and my face didn't flush. I looked at Victoria and Ethan, clinging to each other, a slight smile playing on my lips. Oh? So you're saying it's my fault? My sudden change in attitude made the surrounding passengers pause for a moment before quickly agreeing. If you know you're wrong, then hurry up and give your seat to the patient. Exactly, that's the right thing to do. It's a great virtue to be able to admit and correct one's mistakes. I stared intently at Ethan and Victoria, not missing the fleeting look of triumph in their eyes. You want my business class seat? Not a chance. Just as everyone was about to breathe a sigh of relief, my lazy voice rang out again. It's true that Ethan Davis asked me to buy him a ticket. The crowd looked at me, confused, except he only sent me 20 but asked me to buy a 100 business class seat. He treats my credit card like his personal ATM. Folks, help me out here. Should I just suck it up and be a chump, or should I just suck it up and be a chump? My tone was filled with helplessness and sarcasm. The passengers, who had been so indignant just moments before, stared at me wide-eyed, then glanced over at Ethan. He immediately turned his face away, unable to meet their gaze. I sighed. How about this? I can see you're all very passionate people, and I'm not some unreasonable madman. If any kind soul here is willing to give their seat to this patient, I will immediately transfer the 20 to them. He is a patient, after all. I'm sure you'll all be happy to help, right? The moment the words left my mouth, the previously outspoken passengers all fell silent. That's right. When their own interests were at stake, they all chose silence, especially for a thankless money-losing deal like this. Only Victoria stood firm, protectively beside Ethan. Sincere Clark, don't try to guilt-trip other people. This is clearly your fault. Why should you make others bear the consequences? I smiled at Victoria. So you do know what guilt-tripping is. So it's okay to guilt-trip me, but not Ethan? What a double standard. Soon our argument attracted the attention of the train attendant. She looked at me sternly. The train is about to depart. Please return to your seats. Suddenly, Ethan collapsed to the floor, his face a mask of excruciating pain. Ow, ow, my leg is numb, I can't get up. The attendant looked at him nervously. Sir, what's wrong? Ethan looked at the attendant with a pained frown. Hello, I'm injured, still in recovery. And I've been standing for so long. He even managed to squeeze out a few. Beads of cold sweat on his forehead, his breathing shallow and ragged. Victoria seized the opportunity to pull me away from my seat. Without a second thought, the attendant helped Ethan into my business class seat. But Ethan shot up as if he'd sat on a tack, looking at me with a troubled expression. No, he won't let me sit here. His face showed fear, but his tone was more like he was tattling to the attendant. Hearing this, the attendant fell for it completely. She physically blocked Ethan's fake attempt to stand up. She turned to me, displeased. "Is this your seat?" I nodded calmly. Her frown deepened. "Sir, showing basic decency to the young, the old, and the infirm is a fundamental value we're taught from a young age. How can you be so selfish? Since this Mr. Davis is a patient, we should be extending a helping hand, not standing by coldly. Look at the state he's in. Letting him sit in your business class seat for a while won't hurt you. If everyone were like you, what warmth would be left in our society?" The people around me nodded in agreement with the attendant. This guy is really stubborn. He just won't give his seat to a patient. Exactly, we've talked ourselves hoarse and he hasn't budged. Thank goodness you're here, officer. You should really give people with no morals like him a good talking to. Victoria added fuel to the fire. And to think they're supposed to be friends. He won't even give up a seat. The attendant looked at me with even more shock. If you know each other, then that's even worse. How can you be so cold-blooded? Your own friend is sick and you just ignore it. Is that how you treat a friend? I paid for this ticket. Ethan quickly made a show of refusing. Officer, I know you mean well, but if Big Bro C won't let me have it, there's nothing I can do. I'll just go to the standing room car. That one sentence ignited the attendant's protective instincts. She held the posturing Ethan firmly in place. That's enough. You just sit here and rest. No one is going to make you move. A triumphant glint flashed in Ethan's eyes as he looked straight at me. Well then, Big Bro C, I guess I'll have to trouble you. He held out his standing room ticket to me. The attendant even patted my arm twice. Hurry back to your own car. The train is about to leave. With that, she moved on to the next car. Victoria plopped down next to Ethan and began patiently peeling an orange for him, not forgetting to remind, "Me sincere. If you need help with anything over there, you can always come back and find us." As soon as she finished, the older ladies nearby started praising Victoria, calling her such a good woman. Only I remained standing in the aisle, my hand gripping the standing room ticket tightly. Ethan's face was no longer a mask of misery, he was beaming. "You should have just given me the seat from the start. You made me stand for so long my leg went numb." Victoria fawned over him, trying to placate him. "He's sick in the head. Don't lower yourself to a madman's level." Ethan shot me a smug look as he ate a slice of orange from Victoria's hand. Anyone who didn't know would have thought they were the married couple. Thinking back now, my marriage certificate with Victoria was nothing but a joke. She married me for my money but gave her love to Ethan. What a good wife. I watched their intimate display, as if no one else existed, then turned and left the sleeper car. I borrowed a small megaphone from the dining car. I turned it on and recorded a message. Soon, the little speaker's voice blared through the entire train. "Attention all passengers. Attention all passengers. A passenger in the business class section of train K 2008. 109 is currently experiencing a possible bone fracture. If there is a doctor on board, your assistance is urgently needed. Thank you." Halfway through the broadcast, the attendant stopped me, looking annoyed. "What do you think you're doing?" I put on a frantic expression. "Hello, my friend was just crying out in pain. I'm worried something serious might have happened to his leg. Please, you have to help me." The attendant remembered Ethan's pained cries from earlier and, without a second thought, joined the search for a doctor. With our combined efforts, we gathered 4 or 5 orthopedic specialists in less than 15 minutes. When I led the doctors back to the car, Ethan was lounging leisurely in my business class seat, his leg propped up, watching a show on his phone. When he saw me return, he frowned, annoyed. "There's no seat for you here. What are you doing?" The next second, I clutched his shoulder with a look of anguish. "Ethan, don't worry, I brought the doctors. Your leg is going to be fine." Ethan froze, stunned by my sudden action. What are you talking about?" Victoria, returning with a cup of water, saw my hand on Ethan's shoulder and immediately shoved me away. "What are you doing here again? Ethan is just a patient." Can you stop bullying him?" This time, the people around us, including the doctors behind me, all looked at Victoria strangely. One of the doctors even spoke up in my defense. This gentleman was worried the patient might have a bone fracture, so he went out of his way to find us doctors to help. No one is trying to bully your husband. At the word husband, Victoria shot a guilty look in my direction, but I paid her no mind, simply urging the doctors to examine Ethan. "Doctors, please check on my friend. He was just screaming about his leg hurting." The doctors didn't hesitate and moved to examine him. But before they could touch him, Ethan flinched away. I'm fine. I don't need an examination." Without another word, I pulled Ethan forward. A small problem can become a big one if you don't treat it. You can't be afraid of seeing a doctor. Come on, let the doctors take a good look. "Is your leg about to fall off?" Now even the other passengers started to persuade Ethan. "Weren't you just in pain? See, your friend does have a conscience. He went and found doctors for you. Just let them look. If something is seriously wrong with your leg, you could end up a real cripple, unable to resist the combined enthusiasm of the crowd and the doctors." Ethan reluctantly allowed them to examine him. The 4 or 5 doctors took turns, looking at Ethan's leg, then at each other with furrowed brows. Finally, they looked at me. "Your friend's leg isn't that serious. It's just a sprain, nothing major." "Oh, so it was just a sprain, not a fracture." Before I could say anything, Ethan jumped in. "Oh, that's good, that's good. I was worried all that movement earlier made it worse." The doctor nodded. "As long as you don't run or jump, there's nothing seriously wrong with your leg." I seized the opening. "So standing on it won't be a problem, right?" The doctor didn't understand my intent but answered professionally, "It's just a sprain." Of course, he can stand. Hearing this, Ethan was about to argue, but I cut him off. "Did you hear that? You've been occupying my business class seat for half an hour now. Didn't you hear the doctor? Now get the hell back to your own car." The doctor stood there, completely stunned. Ethan gripped the armrests, refusing to move. Victoria, who had been silent, now started defending him. "The attendant already said this seat is for Ethan. Are you deaf or just forgetful?" I looked at her calmly. "So even if there's nothing wrong with him, you're still going to occupy my seat for him?" "Yes." "How can you have no sympathy?" I grinned. That was the line I was waiting for. I dramatically sat on the floor and started wiping away fake tears. "Everyone, you be the judge. How am I supposed to live like this? I'm wealthy, but is being wealthy my fault? Does that mean I have to be your personal piggy bank? So, to punish me for having money, you shamelessly hug and cuddle with your lover right in front of me, your legal husband?" That one sentence sent the train car into an uproar again. "You like using the crowd, don't you, Victoria? Then why don't we let them see the true faces of this tragic couple? After all, just moments ago, everyone thought Ethan was her husband. They never imagined the real husband was me." The gossiping crowd instantly shifted their attention to Victoria. Even the train attendant standing behind the doctors was dumbfounded. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Victoria glared at me, furious. I blinked innocently. "Aren't you my wife?" Victoria couldn't deny that. I then pointed at the two of them pressed together. "And weren't you just flirting with Ethan Davis? So what part of that was nonsense?" Victoria jerked her hand away from Ethan's shoulder as if she'd been electrocuted. "Stop making things up. I was just showing extra concern because Ethan is a patient. Don't twist it into something so sordid. If I hadn't died and come back, I would have never known that Ethan and Victoria had gotten together so early on. No wonder Victoria had been working overtime so frequently lately. Turns out she was on dates with Ethan. I'd been wearing this green hat for quite some time. In response to Victoria's explanation, I looked at the two of them with a choked voice. "I even paid for your business class seat. How can you be so brazen, spending my money to support your toy boy?" The passengers who had just been accusing me of being heartless instantly understood the whole story. Anyone would be furious in this situation. They immediately turned their fire on Ethan. Look at you, a kept man, having the nerve to make her husband buy you a train ticket, and a business class one at that. Have you no shame? Seriously, you should be keeping your head down, not brazenly demanding money, and to think I actually felt sorry for you. You're young and healthy, but instead of earning your own living, you're shamelessly spending another man's money. You're young, but you're already learning how to be a homewrecker. People like you will get what's coming to them. Bombarded from all sides, Ethan was speechless and could only hang his head. Seeing the crowd was against them, Victoria didn't dare argue with them, but turned on me instead. Sincere Clark, aren't you going to stop them? You're just going to let them stand here and ruin someone's reputation with their lies? Don't you know that slander is illegal? You can go to jail for it. I cursed her silently. Shameless Victoria, only capable of bullying a gentle scholar like me. I was truly blind to have ever fallen for her. I nonchalantly cleaned out my ear. Oh, slander is illegal? But have I slandered anyone? When they were attacking me earlier, you were enjoying it, weren't you? What's wrong? Now that it's Ethan's turn, you feel sorry for him? I'm so moved by your unbreakable bond I could just cry. I glanced at the train attendant in the corner and pointed at Ethan. This person is occupying my seat. Could you please do something about it? Victoria looked at me anxiously. Sincere Clark, don't take it too far. How can you kick out a patient? Even a sprained ankle makes him a patient. Unfortunately for them, this time, the attendant was no longer on their side. Seeing that the attendant was about to kick out her beloved Ethan, I kindly offered Victoria a suggestion. Since you feel so sorry for him, why don't you give your seat to Ethan? The passengers let out a collective, mocking ooh. The sarcasm was palpable. Victoria could only stammer an explanation. Ethan is a patient. If I leave, who will take care of him? I rolled my eyes, exasperated. You're such a saint. So you enjoy being a nanny, is that it? No wonder you look down on me. My comment drew a fresh round of laughter from the crowd. No one paid any more attention to Ethan and Victoria's drama. Under Ethan's sweet talking, Victoria had no choice but to switch seats with him. As she left, she didn't forget to tell me to take good care of Ethan. I played deaf. Take care of him? The toy boy? You've got to be kidding me. A kind older lady came over and patted my shoulder. Brother, are you really keeping a floozy like that around for the winter? I nodded in agreement. This marriage is definitely over. Victoria glared at me. Sincere Clark, I'm still here. I didn't even lift my eyelids. Oh, you haven't left yet? Sorry, I forgot. Come on, ma'am, let's continue. I went on bad-mouthing her right to her face, showing her zero respect. She stormed out of our car with a dark expression. I sank comfortably into my business class seat. This time I finally didn't have to sacrifice myself for that wretched pair. After being shunned by everyone, Ethan could only sit forlornly in Victoria's seat, completely ignored. However, he was still thick-skinned enough to try to order me around. Big bro, see, it's not convenient for me to walk. Could you get me a cup of water? Before I could even respond, an older lady shut him down for me. What's wrong with you? Don't you have hands or feet? Can't you get it yourself? I'm a patient. How can you treat me like this? The lady was not one to back down. It's because of social menaces like you that the divorce rate is so high. In the old days, a scoundrel like you would have been paraded through the streets in shame, you know that? Her words left Ethan completely unable to retort. Having all been deceived by him, the passengers were not about to give him any sympathy. Ethan could only fume and call Victoria to come help him. Victoria, who had already been standing for 4 or 5 hours, ran wearily back to the car to get water for Ethan, complaining to me all the while. Sincere, you never used to be like this. Why have you become so heartless? Oh, well, you never used to cheat on me. Why have you become like this? My retort drew another round of scornful and mocking looks from the surrounding passengers. Victoria could only shut her mouth. Midway through the trip, Victoria couldn't bear standing any longer, and came to ask if she could switch places with me for a while. Without even looking up, I pointed to the seat next to me, where Ethan was sitting. Victoria looked at me, exasperated. "Are you my husband, or is he my husband?" Still not looking up, I mocked her. "Oh, not for much longer." Victoria snorted coldly and then turned to Ethan, speaking in a soft, gentle voice. "Ethan, maybe you could let me sit for a little while?" All she got was Ethan's gentle refusal. "Vicky, it's not that I don't want to switch with you, but if I stand for too long, what if my leg gets worse? I don't want to be a cripple." This was the result of all Victoria's fawning. How interesting. The rest of the way, I chatted and laughed with the older folks, sharing snacks and drinks, and we quickly became friends. If it weren't for the occasional drama from Victoria and Ethan, the journey would have been perfect. Over 40 hours passed quickly. I gathered my things, feeling refreshed, and got off the train. A short while later, I saw Victoria, her legs trembling, helping Ethan down from the train. When she saw me, she was full of complaints. "Why are you walking so fast? Are you rushing to get reincarnated? Go hail a cab, I'm exhausted." "Oh, and make sure it's a private car service. Ethan's leg is hurt. He can't ride in one of those cheap little cars." Ethan looked at Victoria, moved, and said thank you. I used to spoil Victoria like a princess, so she had grown accustomed to my taking care of everything. No matter what, she expected me to arrange it all. After all, I was capable and rich. She just had to close her eyes and enjoy the service. This time, I didn't argue. I dutifully hailed a private car. I put my own luggage inside. From a distance, Victoria was still calling out to me. "Sincere, hurry up and put my and Ethan's luggage in the car." I just smiled at them. A perfect match, really. Without a backward glance, I got in the car and closed the door. The driver, following the hotel address I provided, stepped on the gas and drove off. Victoria stood there stunned as she watched the car drive away. She chased after the car, limping, and because her leg was numb, she tripped and face planted on the pavement. Her curses faintly reached me from behind. "Sincere Clark, you madman," I sat comfortably in the private car. Perhaps my previous indulgence had made Victoria think she could humiliate me like this and I would never leave her. It was time for this farcical marriage to end, and it was time for some people to get a taste of hardship. Victoria always said that as the eldest daughter, it was her duty to help her parents and siblings. So, for every holiday, I would patiently accompany her back home. To improve her parents' living conditions, I paid for a complete renovation of their house in the countryside in our first year of marriage, buying them plenty of new furniture and appliances. Every time we went back for a holiday, I would bring expensive gifts. They always used these things to show off to the neighbors, boasting about how their daughter had married well. As soon as I arrived at the hotel, Victoria's call came through. "Sincere Clark, what kind of spoiled brat tantrum are you throwing now? We agreed to go home and see my parents for the holidays. What's the meaning of you just taking off? My parents were worried about where you went. What kind of son-in-law are you, making old folks worry about you?" I scoffed. Were they worried about me? No, they were worried about the presents in my suitcase. After all, Victoria's filial piety was funded entirely by my money. Without me, Victoria could only show up empty-handed. I sat lazily on the sofa. "Oh, didn't you bring Ethan with you? I was afraid of interrupting your little love fest, so I thoughtfully booked myself a hotel. Shouldn't you be praising me for that?" Victoria was fuming but could only lower her voice to lecture me. "Are you ever going to stop? I already told you, Ethan is just from the same hometown. We were just traveling back together. How long are you going to keep this up? Why are you being so difficult? Mom and Dad have been asking about you. I'm giving you half an hour. If you still want to be a proper son-in-law to the Morgan family, you'll get back here immediately." She hung up. "Just from the same hometown? I think you don't dare admit the truth. If your family didn't look down on Ethan's for being poor, you probably would have thrown yourself at him long ago." On the train, I had already asked my secretary to check Victoria's spending over the past few years. A huge portion of it was spent on Ethan. What a brilliant scheme, selling herself to support her one true love. Even the down payment on Ethan's house was paid from my account. I immediately called my lawyer. Prepare a divorce agreement and a debt acknowledgement for me. Just as I finished with the lawyer, I heard a knock on my hotel room door. I never expected Victoria to bring her parents and a host of relatives to the hotel to find me. The moment I opened the door, Mr. and Mrs. Morgan grabbed my hand enthusiastically. "Sincere, why are you staying in a hotel?" Mrs. Morgan glanced around at the decor. "A night here must cost a fortune. You should be more careful with your money, even if you earn a lot." I said nothing. Did I need the Morgans' approval to spend my own money? Mr. Morgan held my hand warmly. "I know you and Vicky had a little tiff. I've already had a word with her. All couples fight. You know what they say, never let the sun go down on your anger." He looked at me with a meaningful expression. "Sincere, you and Vicky aren't getting any younger. The problem with your relationship is that you don't have children. Starting a family is what's important. It was Victoria who didn't want to have children with me. But now the blame was all being shifted onto me. With her parents backing her, Victoria didn't say a word. So they wanted a child? What a coincidence. The files my secretary sent over included Victoria's recent gynecological exam. She was 1 month pregnant, except I had been on a business trip for the past 2 months. It was obvious who the father was. I smiled and placated Victoria's parents. "You're right. We do need to have a child." Mr. and Mrs. Morgan were instantly overjoyed and told me to pack my things and go back with them. I refused. I sent them off with a few small gifts and a promise to visit them in person tomorrow. As he was leaving, Mr. Morgan muttered under his breath, "Such a spendthrift." I wasn't angry. After all, their good days of leeching off me were about to end. The next morning I went to the Morgans' house with my lawyer and the documents. On the way, I also picked up Ethan. Hearing something good was happening, he eagerly came along. When Victoria saw Ethan, she froze for a moment. Then, without any hesitation, she ran over to help him out of the car. This scene was witnessed by Mr. and Mrs. Morgan. Mrs. Morgan rushed between them and slapped Victoria's hand away. "What are you doing? This kind of public display is improper." Ethan's expression turned ugly. It wasn't that Mrs. Morgan liked me so much, but that the villagers were terrified of getting entangled with the Davis family. The Davis family was notorious in the village. An alcoholic father, a paralyzed mother, the entire family depended on Ethan. No one was willing to marry their daughter into that family. Unfortunately, Victoria saw herself as some kind of saint who could save Ethan. Of course, her plan was to use my money to do it. I smiled and pulled Ethan to my side. "We're all family here. What's with the drama?" Mrs. Morgan shot me a nasty look and snorted. "Only a family that's been cursed for 8 generations would be family with him." I smiled at Victoria, then comforted Mrs. Morgan. "Why would you curse yourself? Victoria will be marrying Ethan soon. This is a bond forged in a past life." Mrs. Morgan and Victoria's voices rang out at the same time. "What did you say? What nonsense are you spouting?" One was shocked, the other furious. Mrs. Morgan's eyes widened as she stared at me. "Sincere, what are you talking about?" I looked at her calmly. "Didn't you always want a grandchild?" I jutted my chin towards Ethan. "Victoria is pregnant with his child. This is wonderful news." After hearing this, Mrs. Morgan glared at Ethan with venom in her eyes. Ethan stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. Victoria darted in front of Ethan, shielding him protectively, and looked at me unhappily. "Sincere Clark, have you had enough? So what if I'm having Ethan's baby? It's none of your business. Do you have to turn my family's life upside down to be satisfied?" Victoria truly didn't disappoint me. She admitted it so freely. It saved me the trouble of presenting the other evidence I had prepared. I just gave a faint "oh" It was Mrs. Morgan beside me who seemed to lose all her strength and collapse to the ground. My lawyer discreetly handed me the documents. I took the file and threw it at Victoria. "Sign it, and you can be with your true love forever." Seeing it was a divorce agreement that would leave her with nothing and a confirmation of her debts, Victoria threw it to the ground without a second thought. "I will not leave with nothing. You're dreaming. Even if we divorce, you have to give me half of your assets as compensation for my emotional distress." She really wanted to have her cake and eat it too. It was the funniest joke I'd ever heard. She ate my food, drank my wine, and now she wanted my money. Too bad I came prepared. I clapped my hands a few times and a construction crew entered and stood behind me. "Tear this house down." Victoria immediately stood in front of the house. "What do you think you're doing? This is illegal. Stop right now." I looked at my lawyer, who handed her a business card. According to the law, it is not illegal for Mr. Clark to demolish a house he paid to build. Now the Morgan family was stunned. Even Mr. and Mrs. Morgan were terrified, begging me, "Sincere, let's talk this over, please." I completely ignored them. Mrs. Morgan, furious, rushed at Ethan, punching and kicking him, but she couldn't hurt him at all. Instead, Ethan shoved her away, and she fell to the ground. I just stood there quietly, watching their drama unfold. Victoria, however, was only concerned about whether Ethan was hurt. Completely ignoring her mother on the ground, she screamed at the workers who were starting to dismantle the house. "Stop, stop it, I'll sign." She then glared at me fiercely. "Sincere Clark, you're so vicious. You'll get what you deserve." Ha, my just desserts. I took the signed documents. Looking at the miserable couple on the ground, I smiled faintly. If anyone deserves retribution, it's you two. Before I left, I gave Victoria a helpful reminder. "By the way, on my way here, I had my people tell Ethan's drunkard father that you're carrying his family's heir. I imagine he's on his way over right now." With that, I left with a smile. I heard the Davis family had been desperate to find a wife for Ethan for years. Anyone who heard about their situation ran for the hills. Now, with Victoria delivering herself to their doorstep, the Davis family was climbing up the pole that had been handed to them. I had just stepped out of the yard when Frank Davis arrived at the Morgans' home. As soon as he entered, he stared lecherously at Victoria's belly. "Not bad, not bad. Since you're pregnant, pack your things and come straight to our house. My wife is waiting for you to come and serve her. Oh, and we don't have money for a bride price. You remember to prepare a dowry of $10,000. Victoria's face flushed red as she stared at Frank. "Why don't you just rob us?" Frank rolled his eyes. "We're not even complaining that you're used goods. You're not even going to provide a dowry?" Victoria stared at him angrily. "You're not paying a bride price and you want us to pay a dowry?" Frank looked at her sleazily. "You're already pregnant. You still think you're some pristine maiden? Who else would want you besides our family? If you don't give us the money, then you can give birth on your own. The Davis family doesn't want the child." He then made to leave with Ethan. Mrs. and Mr. Morgan, who had just caught their breath, nearly fainted again. It takes a scoundrel to handle a scoundrel. I didn't stay to listen to their vulgarities and left that impoverished little village. Aside from the money Victoria owed me, there were no more ties between us. Later, my assistant who went to collect the debt told me the story. The Davis family had shamelessly moved into the Morgans' yard, and every day was chaos. While pregnant, Victoria had to take care of Ethan's paralyzed mother. Ethan's father came by every few days to demand money for alcohol. Victoria would scream at Ethan, "You good-for-nothing parasite, I must have been blind to ever like you." Ethan, no longer pretending, beat Victoria so badly she had a miscarriage, which led to another round of turmoil. The two of them got into a physical fight and both ended up in the hospital, one with a crippled leg, the other with a broken arm. Quite a matching pair. I smiled. I suppose that's what you call true love. I signed a document and handed it to my secretary. The last rays of the setting sun streamed into the office. Life only gets better when you leave the wrong people behind.